Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond Recovery. I'm very excited for this guest today. We reached out to her, and she reached out to me a couple weeks ago, and I've been counting the days to do this. So, Alex Talbot, head coach, founder of Sober Active Canada. Always happy to have a fellow Canadian on the show here. Alex, how's it going today?
I'm doing great. I just want to thank you in advance. If that doesn't come out in my whole message here today, I just want to thank you in advance, really, for sharing your platform with me, letting me share my experience, strength, and hope with your viewers and whoever's going to be watching this and tuning in, and helping me carry the message. And for me, lived experience is absolutely our teacher, whether it be my own lived experience or hearing somebody else's lived experience. I think that's helped me a lot in my recovery journey thus far, whether we're indirectly or directly involved or a part of each other's recovery process. Just seeing other people's stories, I get so hopeful and hope filled when I hear somebody else talking about their own journey. And, as much as our stories are so very different, we still have so many commonalities and that one common bond, right? So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. No, a great opening. That's that sets the table. So much to talk about.
Oh,
And I do want to get into your lived experience, but before we do, tell us about what like Sober Active Canada, like what are you looking to do with it? What have you been doing with what's the origins
okay.
and just the background on Sober Active
Yeah.
Canada, please?
Yeah, so Sober Active Canada is a national nonprofit recovery-based community for those addicted to bettering themselves, open to all A's, all ways. So any addiction, any pathway to, and any stage of recovery. It's all around, it's about fostering health, hope, and healing. And whether that be through our online programming and a resource-based information, also sharing, other people's experience, strength, and hope, what I like to call our recovery MVPs. So our features, featuring amazing Canadians doing amazing things in the recovery community. And I always say we builds community. So whether that be the come together part, the opposite of addiction being connection, or through any means. My background is in communications, so the different mediums and platforms to bring that to people from coast to coast to coast. Except don't let the Canada fool you because of the pandemic. Our events. So I do host also. So not only through the programming and our features, but I also host events which are locally and virtually based now. So don't let that Canada fool you. It's recovery without borders. The events which are beginner group physical activity or light stretching and yoga, incorporating the physical activity and the fitness in recovery, and nutrition based. I think it's more around self-care is an important phase of recovery, complemented by a 12-step style format, topical discussion meeting, but all around again, nutrition, fitness, right down to, so all the 6 elements of self-care, just not just self-care can be baths and chocolate, but that ain't self-care. The mental self-care, the physical self-care, the social self-care, the spiritual self-care, the emotional self-care, and the practical self-care. And I think, for me, and you'll get it in my story, recovery is not about what fucking program you're in and what fucking program you're not. I really couldn't care less. I know what works for me. Whatever you're doing, keep working it. Recovery is actually a transformative process. It's not just about abstinence. It's about improving our health and our wellness, thereby improving our quality of life. The goal not to be clean and or sober, but to love ourselves enough to live lives unaddicted. So that's also, I'm a certified health and lifestyle coach. So to me, I have a 3-pronged disease. I have a mental obsession, a physical compulsion, and a spiritual malady. I cannot escape the fact that I got to attack those 3 on a daily basis. I have to do the mental exercise, the physical exercise, and the spiritual exercise. For me, my daily reprieve is not just contingent upon my spiritual maintenance. It is absolutely contingent upon my spiritual, physical, and mental maintenance, you know. And I think when you start looking at recovery as a process, recovery as a lifestyle, my life and my style today, you know, I eat, breathe, live, sleep it. Um, you know, when you start looking at it that way, it's about nourishing and strengthening your recovery, you know, having a lifestyle management plan for long-term success, making those behavioral habit changes. You know, everything comes back to the mind, beginning and ending in the mind, right? And even, you know, and I am a 12 stepper. So, you know, even in the big book, in the doctor's opinion, you know, a psychic change is required to emotionally cope with life on life's terms. So again, that behavioral habit change, behavior being in the mind, you know, and then I'll get into my faith-based thinking and my spirituality. And that was the most revolutionary change for me on April 22nd, 2017, was kicking it into faith-based thinking. But, you know, a blind faith, a belief in a power greater than myself. It's all up here, right? I can't see my greater power. I can't, you know, it's all up here. So, you know, good physical health promotes good mental health and vice versa. So it's really, you know, again, you know, fostering and garnering awareness around the recovery lifestyle and a holistic approach, right? I take a holistic approach to my holistic being, mind, body, soul, the mind, body, soul work. So.
Yeah, that resonates so much. Like I love the holistic thing. The body, mind, soul is a big part of what I do with my program as well. So that as soon as you said that, I'm like, hell yeah, absolutely. Lots of I want to talk about that you mentioned there. I love your communications background. Definitely comes across. Like I imagine that words, like the power of words, are very much in your mind as well. Like what you're feeding your mind as far as like, are you going to focus on what you don't have and what you're lacking, or are you going to focus on this new life that you have? And so controlling your thoughts that way and monitoring what words you're
Well,
using.
yeah, and I think that plays into, you know, the what I always say, right? Diet is so much more than what we eat. It's who we surround ourselves with, it's what we watch, it's what we read, it's what we listen to, it's everything that we are consuming. So, you know, when I rid myself of all toxicity, it wasn't only toxic people, places, and things. It was right down to the substances, my thoughts, the activities, right down to the food I consumed. You know, I adopted clean living. I adopted clean eating, clean living 100. You know, so as long as I noticed like the importance of nutrition, not just on my physical health, but how important it was on my mental health, right? So even right down to, you know, as long as I haven't drug or drank, I haven't had refined sugar in my body. You know, to me, sugar is a drug.
Drug, yeah.
So yeah, so you know, like I really go into that kind of mindset and thinking. But yeah, so it's about, you know, nourishing ourselves, right? And I always use the acronym nourish to nourish ourselves on the daily, right? Notice nature, observe your breath, unite with others, replenish with food, initiate movement, sit in silence, and harness your creativity.
Ooh, it's amazing. I love that. And you just say, yeah, you just got
Yeah,
just ready to go, rattle that one off. That's amazing.
because
I love
because
that one.
because I'll tell you what, in
Yeah,
active addiction,
yeah.
well, first of all, drugging and drinking had become my lifestyle over the span of 28 years. You know, that's all I knew. When we
Mm,
say, you know, in our recovery circles, you find yourself in recovery. How the fuck can one find something they never lost? You know, I started
right,
drugging and drinking at the age of 10, where along
right.
that fine line it went from recreational use and having the time of my fucking life to daily habitual abuse,
Mm,
to be by the very end my identity and what I prided and glorified myself on. You know, I could out snort you, out fuck you, out drink you, out party you. You know, you could stay up for 4 days, watch me go, I'll stay up for 5. But at
mm,
that same time, you know, where I was on those 4 or 5 day benders, when it would come time to actually maybe put a bit of food in my body and and, maybe get a couple hours of sleep to start that cycle all over again. you know, I was literally consuming like everything else I was ingesting and putting into my body, right? So this is a lot about making a physical amends to myself, right? For the abuse I put my body through, but also the toxicity I fed it with. Because I'll tell you what, when it came time to actually eat, it was like I could gorge down 6 pizzas, fucking 6 putzins, and it was just pop. Like everything I was consuming in my life, no shit, I lived the waste taste life. It was all fucking junk, right down
Yeah.
from the people, the food, to like, how you do one thing is how you do everything, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's
Yeah.
get into your story. I want to. This is intriguing. You've kind of get a little taste of it here. You know what life was like when it was starting to get really out of control. You framed a little bit. Let's go. Let's roll back the clock. So you said your first, relationship with drugs and alcohol began very early at 10 years old. Yeah, let's a little bit. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your childhood. The context, the environment you grew up in, and how you got to where you are today.
All right. So, I always kick it off by saying, the drugs and alcohol, and the further along I get in my recovery. Yes, on April 22nd, 2017, I thought I was walking into those rooms to just, fucking stop picking up, stop using, and put a plug in the jug. That's really what I thought I was going in there for. I didn't know the transformation and the self discovery journey it would fucking lead me on. So, again, the drugs and alcohol, the men, the sex, whatever. I was fucking addicted to it all. You could give me anything, I could turn it into a fucking addiction if my mind ain't right, right? Everything again, beginning and ending in the mind. And my character defects, which I don't really like to call character defects, more my character defenses or my traits when I'm in that state,
Mm.
desolate state, however. But, you know, the drugs and alcohol and whatever else were never the problem. I think the further along I get in my recovery, and again, recovery being a transformative process, it's about uncovering, discovering, and recovering myself on a daily basis, God willing, lifelong. I'm in this shit for the long haul. My work is never done. Um, Greatest, most intense and rigorous and thorough labor of love. And it is a labor of love. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm never going to sugarcoat this shit. It is fucking work, Put in the work, reap the rewards, though. You
Absolutely.
know, um, I go back to it, and I look now and I'm like, I was an addict and an alcoholic long before I was an addict and an alcoholic, admittedly
Mm.
so. And I probably needed recovery at the age of 10. However,
Okay.
right,
Mm-hmm.
recovery is for those who want it, not for those who need it. So now going back to it, there are a lot of precursors or events in my young life that I see. Obviously the behavioral patterns were there, from a very, very early age. I'm born, like I was saying before we started, right? I'm half Scotian, so I am of mixed origin, Black Scotian, and half French Canadian. My father, God bless his soul, he couldn't find this better way of living for himself or his family while he was still here on Earth. But obviously an addict and an alcoholic himself, which came, obviously with the broken promises, the manipulation, um, the absence, the lack of presence. I would remember from a very early age, right? Like my parents divorced when I was very young, and my mom would get us ready and dressed to the tilts and like fucking have us waiting at the door, and he'd be a no-show.
Mm.
So a lot of daddy abandonment issues, deep-rooted daddy abandonment issues from a very young age, which then led me, obviously, from a very young age to go seek that male presence and that fatherly figure in my life. And at the young age of 10, although, I wouldn't say, yes, I would say, because, like a 10-year-old and a 20-year-old man have absolutely fucking nothing in common.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
that started very early on. So yes, that a lot of childhood trauma there. in terms of my relationships with men from a very young age, and that like obviously that led me to my my sex love and emotional addiction and codependency issues, right? And then again, being of mixed origin, that's also something that the further along I get in my recovery, like don't think on day one when I walked in, I was like, I had a fucking identity crisis. There you go, bingo. But actually, on one of my first podcast interviews 4 years ago, the 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 podcaster was also biracial, and we got into that discussion, and I was like, holy fuck, I have had an identity crisis from the youngest of age,
Sure. Yeah.
never being white enough for the white and never being black enough for the black, even in my own maternal family, being French Canadian, my grandfather, as much as he loved his grandchildren, and me and my sister, like my sister was his first granddaughter, but don't think he talked to my dad until he had that first granddaughter. He didn't even go to my mom and dad's wedding because she was marrying a black man at the time.
Yeah.
And so racism, prevalent racism, right within my own maternal family. That feeling of not fitting in. Growing up at the time, I was born in Montreal, grew up in the outskirts of Toronto in the GTA in Mississauga, but at that time, I had gone to an all French school. And back then, so I am 43, so this is in the early 80s, back then, I'm in elementary school, but the only French elementary school in town. And I'm not looking like the other girls or the other kids. And to this day, I'll always remember, and now it's like super obviously multicultural and whatever. You're white in Toronto, you're fucking a minority, right? But especially being in the French community, like I wasn't blonde haired, blue eyed, and I had I had a lot of characteristics that back when I was younger, I had an afro, like the kink in my hair, like all this shit, right? Like my bubble butt, like you name it, and I had grown such complexes around that. That like that I remember to this day, and for some reason for this to mark me to this day is because it's had a huge impact on me. But I wasn't any fucking color in the schoolyard. I was blue in the face trying to defend myself. And then that's when okay, Alex is defends herself. I'll tell you what, I was a bully, I was a narcissist after, these are all character faults and character defenses, right?
Yeah.
But I turned blue in the face trying to defend myself because I was being called chocolate. Okay, and like you fucking laugh, people, it actually is pretty funny, but it actually isn't for me to still be thinking about it to this day at the age of 43. I was trying to defend myself saying there is such thing as white chocolate too. And the girl was literally sitting there saying no and just calling me chocolate, and then there went, and then even, early on. So they're like, hanging out more with, identifying more with the black roots of my black roots and hanging out with, black guys and the black community. But there, and dating black guys, but I was never black enough for the black girls. She's too light skinned. What the fuck are you doing with her?
Yeah.
So never being able, not fitting in anywhere, not being, having that identity crisis. Again, going back to not white enough for the white and not black enough for the black. And I think that plays a lot into, addiction does not discriminate. It doesn't give a shit what fucking color, race, gender, form, shape, size, what side of the tracks, your social status, your political affiliation, your religious beliefs. It does not fucking care.
Yeah.
But neither do the people that you're drug drinking with, because you only have one thing in common. So I found that entourage from a very young age where I fit in, where I had an appartenance, where I belonged, where I sought validation and that love and that, you know, that false sense of fucking belonging that I searched for so long, that then transcended into, you know, trying to seek love and happiness in all the fucking wrong places, whether it be the next baggie of Coke, the next bottle of whiskey, the next guy I'd fuck or frequent. I was always looking for it over the span of 28 years in all the wrong fucking places. So now going back a little bit again, back to my, you know, I was able to. So, you know, when I said that very fine line, I don't know where it was crossed, but progressiveness of the disease. And I always put a hyphen mark between it. Dis-ease. I have a dis-ease of self. I'm not comfortable in, of, with, by myself. And that ism and alcoholism, right? The ism, the I, self, and me part. I have a fucking huge ego problem. Kill your ego. Shout out to TJ. I saw his interview there a couple weeks back with you.
Awesome. Yeah.
Good friend of mine. So go check out therapythreads.ca. But yeah, so you know, I have a huge ego problem. You know, when I'm in that chaotic mind space of mine. You know, but I always had a certain level of success, and whether that be academic success or professional success, which went to my fucking head. Because I'll tell you what, that fine line was crossed from a very, very, very fucking early age. And I was probably in the full throes of active addiction by the age of fucking, you know, having started to use and booze. And again, I said it was recreational use at first, but it became daily habitual abuse. So, you know, I fast tracked high school here in Ontario. At the time, we were supposed to do your OACs, which was like grade 13. I went to university at the age of 17. And you know what? But I still fucking got my degree at the age of 20.
Yeah.
Drugging and drinking every fucking day. Sitting there writing my papers till 1 a.m. Shit, last call's at 2. I better fucking catch it. Like, you better fucking hand it in right now.
Yeah.
And those were the days before you could email your shit to your professors. I just had to make sure it was done so I could go like drop it off first thing in the morning.
Right.
And you know, that high level of success and very what I thought fucking functional. And I probably was, you know, I lived a dual fucking life from a very young age. By day, professional Alex. By night, running the fucking streets, getting in fights, thinking she was a fucking gangster. And when I got into the federal government of Canada at the age of 20, mind you, I was a student before that, you know, so I started in the federal government at the age of 18. But I got my indeterminacy very early on at the age of 20, as soon as I graduated university, and had a full-time job, a great career. I didn't come in entry level. I was middle management by the age of fucking 22. My employees were older than me, right? And this huge level of success and just power hungry, money hungry, wanting to move up the ranks. And I was a fucking whiz kid, you know. I wanted to be the youngest fucking deputy minister. I wanted to be the youngest executive. I wanted to be the youngest this, and I was being groomed, you know. They invested a lot in me to go on professional and personal development courses and play that leadership role, you know. So that really, you know. But I was fucking invincible, wasn't I? Because I was fucking living this life, this other fucking total life, until, you know, when I say that dual life, I don't know where that dual life became one, you know. And I get a lot into the dis-ease of first of all, the disease of illusion, never enough, more. You know, for Alex, one too many, 5 motherfucking thousand, never enough, you know. Again, going back to my behavioral patterns and my addictive tendencies and my character defenses. And I look back to it today, and from a very, very young age, you know, single mother who worked 3 jobs, 7 days a week, just to provide and support for her daughters, because let's not forget, right? My dad's a fucking doing his own thing, whatever. But
Yeah.
she always made sure, you know, I maintain that relationship with my father, because without him, I wouldn't have been in the world, right? Like
Sure.
without him, I wouldn't be, my existence wouldn't be, right? And she always held that no matter the harms done or, you know, his faults. And I understand them all too well today, you know, coming into recovery. He was one of the first people that, one, I made an amends to, but that I forgave, you know, because
Yeah.
I think, you know, I know all too well today what his plights, trials, and tribulations were, what his struggles and his suffering was. I am my fucking father's daughter. It's in my fucking DNA.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I am my fucking father, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I understand all too well. And I can't fault him for that, you know. I really, really fucking can't. Unfortunately, the disease took him out, you know. He didn't have the will, or, you know, he did. Again, recovery is for those who need it, not, or for those who want it, not for those who need it, right?
Right.
You have to want it for yourself, you know. You
Yeah.
want something fucking badly for yourself, you go after it, right?
Yeah.
But so yeah, you know, but looking at that, you know, from a very young age, like I remember sitting there, and my manipulation and my cheating and my stealing and my lying started from a very, very young age, because again, you know, I always wanted to be part of. I always wanted to. So now the disease of perception comes
Mm.
in, and the disease of perception from a very young age, and all the external and the materialistic and the outer image, and who I was portraying myself to be. And I looked fucking amazing on paper. I really fucking looked amazing on paper. You know, I even won sole custody of my daughter and got painted out to be exactly what I was in court. Um, a drug addict and an alcoholic. But yet, you know what? Level of success. I just beat you, motherfucker.
Yeah.
I just got
Wow.
exclusive custody of our daughter. You tried to paint me out that way, but
And look
on
what
fucking
happened.
paper, I look
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Right.
So so yeah, so always that success. But you know, with my mom from a very young age, here's this woman, and seriously, like my mom, I almost lost my mom at the age of 12, you know, to breast cancer. Back then, you know, modern medicine and science and technology wasn't as advanced as it is today.
Yeah.
I really almost lost her, and I always say this as a joke, because you know it'll show you how I treated my mother. You know, my mother would always sit there and say, "I'm the only white woman who is a slave to 2 Black children,"
Whew.
and I really took fucking full advantage of her unconditional love, of her kindness, of her. But when we're in our disease, when we're in that state, you don't give a fuck about anybody else but yourself, you
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
And, you know, I would remember sitting there with her, and I'd be like, Mom, I need those Patrick Ewings, and I need these running shoes. I really got to have these running shoes. And she'd be like, Alexandra, you know, I cannot afford them right now. Can we wait for 2 weeks when I get my pay? You know, I'll be able to buy them for you. But no, I need them fucking now. Instant gratification, right?
Right.
2 weeks, they ain't gonna be fucking cool anymore. 2 weeks, you're gonna be buying me a new pair. And
Right.
I will sit there in your face and fucking cry and manipulate you until you cave and say yes and bring me to that damn fucking store and get me those running shoes on my feet. And that's the kind of child I was. I was so ungrateful, and I was a spoiled fucking brat, like literally spoiled, you know. And my mom always says today, you know, and I was stealing money from her. I would,
Mm.
from a very young age, to go buy my cigarettes, you know, at the age of
Right.
fucking 10, to go buy my cigarettes and my weed and but you know, in all of that too, my parents, both of them are My mom, ballerina and a model, and my dad was a trained Shakespearean actor, and
Wow.
so very liberal upbringing,
Sure, yeah. Sounds like it.
and obviously being French Canadian, like alcohol is inherent in my culture.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a meal that goes by that it's not at the table. There's not a, but with my mom, it was never problematic drinking, but I saw it all the time because my mom was a flight attendant. So for
Mm.
her, she'd come home from her red eyes, at 8 o'clock in the morning and have her one glass of wine, to relax and unwind and then go to bed.
Right.
So that's all like irregular hours of the day or whatever. But she was very liberal with my upbringing, and it's funny because I came to Ottawa in grade 9. I wanted to follow in my mother's footsteps, and here's a story about obviously um, my priorities not being in check, because I'll tell you what, my contemporary dance career was very short lived. However, when I came to Ottawa in grade 9, because I went to the only French art school in all of Ontario at that time. My school
Mm.
board, again, success, right to my head.
Yes. Yeah.
My school board in Mississauga paid for my room and board, like scholarship, whatever, sent me here for contemporary dance and really wanted to follow in my mother's footsteps. And for her, it was totally normal that her 13-year-old daughter would leave home. She left Montreal at the age of 11 and went to study at the National Ballet of Canada, right? So
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
actually very, very normal, right? Like, this is my dance career. I'm chasing my passion, pursuing my passions. And however, there was no way, and thank God, that she was gonna get her daughter her own apartment at the age of 13, right?
Right.
So I actually lived with nuns at the nun house, the fucking nut house.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I so as much as I had a liberal upbringing, you could imagine the fucking shock
Yeah.
that was to
Yeah.
Alex, who all of a sudden had a curfew, who
Right.
couldn't have boys walk her home, who
Yeah.
couldn't, and structure and discipline like I've never fucking had before. And that's probably the inner rebellion, just, where I rebelled. And, I'm born and raised Catholic. I was practicing up until that point. I had faith up until that point. I'll tell you what, that year in the nun house, not only was my dance career short lived, but I got to tell you, any belief in my religion, I was so disillusioned by the time I left there. I was
Mm.
starting to develop my own feminist ideologies. I couldn't understand that all money was going, to the priesthood when these were the women taking care of me. So the oppression and the sexism and I just got so disillusioned. And by the end of it, like, Catholicism to me was a fucking crock of shit.
Mm.
And that's how I left there. They actually never wanted to see me again. Like I told you, my rebellious tendencies. I got in a fight with a girl there. They thought I needed more of my mother's discipline, right? But little did
Yeah.
they know, I don't have a structure or a routine, or I'm very disciplined back home. But my mother being a flight attendant, there you go again. That was one of her 3 jobs. She retired a flight attendant after 35 years. But she was rarely home. I took full advantage of that. Like, our house
Yeah.
was the party house.
Sure.
Fucking, we get holes punched in her walls, all her shit stolen. Like, this
Yeah.
was just around the fucking clock from a very young age. And this is just the way I continue to live. Because again, I'm always having that level of success in something and thinking I'm invincible, and that goes to my disease of perception again. And that's what kept me in denial for so fucking long. Because I'll tell you what, I wasn't, I'm a high class fucking junkie. Okay. And alcoholics, meetings, drunks don't. And even touch like prescription, I wouldn't do perks or opioids or anything that you could fucking get from a pharmacist. I only do the the most illicit and best for my fucking nose, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I found the rave scene after that year at the Nun House. I moved back to Toronto and found the rave scene in its early infancy. And I'll tell you what, I always say, you know, I danced myself to, I raved myself to a life of addiction. But 28 years later, when I came into recovery, I found cardio hip hop and I danced myself back to health. And wouldn't that be funny? The one passion I had as a child, that it would be rooted in dance again, you know, and finding that joy in dance. So that's pretty, like, that's a correlation I made later on.
Super cool.
But yeah, so, you know, like that disease of perception, and I'll just like kind of wrap it up on that, a couple of things, and then go into I'm very solutions based, and I feel like I'm talking too much about my backstory.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah, so, you know, again, that disease of fucking perception, and me thinking I was invincible, and me thinking I was the shit. And I would tell you what, I was the shit, right? I was the fucking whiz kid in the government of Canada. They were fucking grooming me. They were investing in me. I was working for a deputy head for years, many, many years. And don't think this is the kind of shit that I just started doing in his office. You know, this has been going on for quite some time, because I'm fucking invincible and nothing is catching up to me. And I'm fucking climbing up the ranks, doing all the shit that I'm fucking doing. And I'm fucking up here, and everybody is below me, and everything is fucking beneath me. Because Alex is fucking here on some makeshift fucking pedestal that she's on, and she thinks she's fucking invincible, you know? And when I say that disease of perception, and I'm not a criminal like the rest of them, I'll tell you what, when that dual life became one, and I was so checked out from reality that, you know, I go back to that step one today, and it's not just the powerlessness, you know, admitting powerlessness for me, the power, you know, how powerless I was over the quantity that I consumed and the unmanageability of my life. But by the end, I was powerless over my own fucking mind. You know, when we say we create insanity, it is pretty insane to create your own fucking insanity. But, you know, I could not make any judgment I had, any decision-making power I had, that all went out the fucking window. Like I had no more judgment, you know, and when it's pretty scary to think that the consequences of your actions don't matter, because it's not even, doesn't even cross your mind as a fucking thought.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, that's what gets me. But today, having the power of choice, being one of the greatest gifts, and my fucking sanity and my wits about me again, you know, because I am a single mother, and I, you know, my daughter was, you know, I was in the full throes of active addiction for her first 10 years of life, and you know, the intolerable, inexcusable, unacceptable, and deplorable, you know. And now I go back to my father, right? I am my father's daughter, and I was not a fucking parent. You know, yes, I was there with her, unlike my father with me, but I was not fucking there.
Yeah.
And when your actions, like, you're not even things through, you know, but that goes into that mental obsession part, right? By the end, cocaine and whiskey consumed my every fucking thought, so I consumed them. And that was all I fucking cared about. You know, I didn't even care enough about myself to care about another fucking human being, you know? So I've had, you know, that 1 year in lead up to that last year, rock bottom after rock bottom. We talk about, you know, so not only at work in my career, you know, but for the first time in my life, I wasn't able to go into my building. I was tweaking out, and don't think it ever stopped me before, but I was literally sitting in my car in front of my building at work.
Mm.
And I'm thinking I'm hiding this so well from people at this point. I'm thinking I mean, while I have the fucking gash under my nose, I fucking probably reek like booze every day. I'm talking to my fucking daughter's teachers this way. You know, I thought I was the best fucking mother in the world because she was in, you know, competitive synchronized swimming, competitive soccer. I was giving her everything. But again, let's get back to that materialistic outer image, what I was portraying on the outside of these fucking doors. In the inside of her environment, her safe haven, where she's supposed to come home after school and feel comfortable. You know, the things that she bore witness to and the things that, you know, what she had to endure. No child should ever have to. She never fucking asked to come into this world in a world of fucking addiction, right?
Yeah.
So again, addiction is a family disease. That recovery is a family affair. You know, she's very implicated in my recovery today, and I think my lived experience speaks volumes to finally being the woman that I'm raising. You know, and when we go back to communications and my word, I'm actually a fucking woman of her word today. Because
Mm.
I'll tell you what, my communications background served me very well because I fucking was spinning my fucking life.
Sure. I could
I
see
was
that. Yeah.
weaving the web of lies and I was
Right.
fucking fantastic at it until I wasn't anymore because the only
Right.
person I was lying to was myself by the end of it. The
Mm.
only person I was deceiving self. You know, I was slowly and silently ruining and killing myself on every level, and whether that be mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, it was right down to financial and professional. So again, going back in that year to lead up to that Sunday, and I cannot tell you why that day of all fucking days, that was the day, because after 28 years, I cannot tell you why Sunday, April 22nd, 2017 was the day, but it was.
Hmm.
Um, and we'll get into that minute. And that was a spiritual awakening right fucking there, you know. And, you know, but in lead up to that, so couldn't go into work, fucking faked, was forging fucking doctor's notes, pretended I got in a car accident, didn't show up for 2 months, fucking went on a fucking 24/7 fucking rampage. Then got served, you know, a notice of foreclosure on my condo in
Mm.
November 2016. Here I am working for a deputy head. And here I am almost fucking getting me and my daughter like near homelessness. You know,
Yeah.
apparently the banks want their fucking money back. Um, if you don't pay your mortgage in like, you know, after 7 months, you know, in arrears, like
Okay. Yeah.
the banks want their money back,
They
right?
want. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
So right there, that was a huge wake up call for me because as I was sitting here and the bailiffs showed up at my door with these fucking notice of foreclosure and I'm fucking blasted. Um, I was like, holy shit, Alec. Like, this was finally the fucking proof on paper. I used to look so good on paper.
Yeah.
Here's
Right.
the fucking proof
Yeah.
of what the fuck are you doing with your life?
Yeah.
The fuck you doing with your life, girl?
Yeah.
Like, you have nothing to show. You've been making a pretty good fucking salary since the age of fucking 18.
Mm-hmm.
You're a career public servant. Like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
You work for a deputy head and you're almost living in the fucking streets now.
Wow.
What the fuck are you doing? And I
Yeah.
stopped right there, cold, dead cold, but only abstinence, right? Because
Yeah.
drugs and alcohol were my problem at that point.
Right.
Oh, if I wasn't picking up and going to the liquor store every day, and mind you, by that time, not only did I not have money, but you know, remember how I said I'm not like a criminal like the rest of them. You know, I was committing white collar crime. I was committing fraud every
Mm.
fucking day because I'll tell you what, I was using your taxpayer funds to fund my fucking habits.
Mm.
I was using my government travel card to travel to the fucking liquor store and do cash advances. I had
Mm.
fucking nothing left. you know, and nothing to show financially for this level of success I've had for fucking so long, right?
Right, right.
So I go back, you know, like I was fucking ruining myself. And like, how insane is that? How insane is that? But I was so consumed and so in the grips and so caught up, you know, in that mode, that reality. I didn't even fucking know what reality was anymore. I was so checked out. And then as soon as I come back down for 2 fucking minutes, forget that. I can't feel that way. Oh my God, the shame, the guilt, the remorse, the fucking, what did I do last night? What lie am I going to
Mm,
fucking weave today? What am I going to say to somebody? Why am I not going into work for the 5 consecutive day again? What the
yeah,
fuck am I, you know, like
yeah,
I can't feel this way. Fuck this shit. I need to check right out and go back into oblivion.
right.
Right.
Of course.
And that the cycle, just a
Yeah.
fucking continual cycle. And but there I did, you know, like I did stop, and somebody that I had met in active addiction, you know, just a couple of months prior, she had actually you know, committed herself, went to detox rehab, and also she was in a fellowship. And you know, I befriended her again. We all had always stayed in each other's lives, just not that much at that time. But you know, I called her and kind of told her what was going on, and I was like, I just can't, I just can't pick up anymore. Like where am I going to get this money to pay off my mortgage? I got to keep my condo. There's no fucking way that me and my daughter live on our street. You know, my only problem though is drinking and drugging. I got to like just stop and fucking collect money, you know.
Hmm, hmm.
Managed to borrow the money off of one of my ex-boyfriends who was actually a coke dealer. So and you know what, off to the fucking races again. But she planted, you know, when we that just that mustard seed of faith, right? That
Yeah.
just that one little seed needs to be planted, you know. So for 28 days, mind you, it wasn't my first foray into sobriety. Obviously during my pregnancy with my daughter, you know, at the age of 28. You know, that was my first foray into sobriety, but it was forced sobriety, you know.
Right.
But people didn't think I'd be able to do it. And you know what? And living in Quebec, like the doctor tells you, you can have a glass of wine or two on regularly. It's not fucking abnormal, right?
Right.
I couldn't even bring myself, like it was my birthday, my 28th birthday, and I was pregnant with, and I was at the restaurant, and I had a glass of wine, and even one sip I was like, the fuck am I doing,
Right.
you
Wow.
know.
Interesting. Yeah.
But that, you know, that pregnancy and that relationship, and you know, those were tumultuous. And I'll tell you, like that tumultuous custody battle. But anyways, you know, like I won't get into it. We all have our own problems. It's funny because I always say, you know, all the men I've been with have been so emotionally damaged, but clearly I was very fucking emotionally damaged myself. Um, you know, she heard me on a podcast interview once, and it was the first time that she heard that, and she said, "So I was a mistake."
Mm,
Um, she is not a mistake. She is actually the greatest gift that I've ever been given. She is my greatest achievement. It just took me 10 years to show her, you know, and I think today I will forever be living in amends whereby she's concerned. That's for sure. And I will show her every day that she's the best thing that's ever happened to me, you know. It just took me time. So I'd gone to that with my friend that December. We had gone, and Halia even came with me. We had gone to a fellowship's masquerade ball for New Year's Eve, and wouldn't it be funny? Like, what an analogy, right? Like
mm.
living out an analogy. I was one at the masquerade ball, not wearing a mask, but wearing a mask. You know, at that
Yeah.
facade and
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Gotcha.
bullshit and that liar
Yeah.
and that fake that I was, because I had got fucking, you know, I had gotten high that day, but gave myself 2 hours between going to pick up my friend and the masquerade ball, sat in and listened on meetings. And because, you know, 2 hours, I had stopped. I was clean for 2 hours. You know, I was fine.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, that 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 couldn't come fucking soon enough for Alex to bounce out of there. And that's really where really the last, I didn't know it was going to be my last hurrah. I didn't know it was going to be my last run, but it was a fucking run, and it was a run for fucking 6 months.
Mm.
And in that time, getting in another codependent relationship, the insanity attached to that, just starting to get very sloppy in all my lying and all the shit that I'm doing at work, so I'm not fucking have no more fucking judgment at this point, and that dual life I lived for so long was just one. I couldn't even keep up with my fucking lying and my games and my manipulation and my bullshit. And the weekend before, April 22nd, 2017, in one final act of desperation before I was given the gift of desperation the week after, I had gone across town and picked up off of somebody I didn't know, because at this point, when your dealers are not coming to your house anymore, and you've been their fucking payroll for so long, when your dealers are not coming to your house anymore or telling you to get off the fucking street, when your dealers have cause for concern for you people, there is a fucking problem.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
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 And that and I could tell you what, I don't even know what I put up my fucking nose that day. I really don't. For doing cocaine for fucking a latter part of 28 years, I can tell you it definitely was not fucking cocaine that went up my nose. And luckily enough, my daughter wasn't here, but like in a drug-induced psychosis, I thought the only way to come down from that high was going to be to take my life. Managed to get a hold of somebody and talk me down, but it was a 24-hour process. And don't go to fucking sleep. Don't do anything stupid. Don't even go take a shower. Don't like, and that kind of fucking scared the fuck out of me, and that whole next week, I didn't know it was the beginning of the end, because I'll tell you what, every minute, every 5 minutes between, and that physical compulsion that we go into, the reaction, the allergy, I could tell you what, I was so fixated, that mental obsession was so strong, and that, that reaction and that physical compulsion part of it was huge. Between 2-minute intervals, that was going to be it. And it was never it. I'm done. I cannot live this way anymore. I cannot. So that's why I say come to, April 22nd, 2017. And I could vividly remember that day. I was tweaked out. And as I lie there trying to go to sleep, I got fucking woke. A few things going in my mind at that time were, I can no longer live this way anymore. What the fuck am I doing to myself? This is not fair to me, but it is definitely not fair to my daughter. Two, my daughter was going to be 10 years old in 2 months' time. Who the fuck am I to tell her anything differently? I started living this way at her age. It's time for you to step up to the plate and be a fucking parent and be a role model and start walking the walk and talking the talk. Like, you are a shit fucking parent at best. And I don't know, man, like why? And I would go to my grave convinced, and I didn't know what step 1, 2, or 3 were. Admonition to self, greatest revelation of all time. I was at that moment completely fucking done and defeated, and I needed help, and I needed it now. And the help I so desperately needed for so long, I finally went and sought it, and that gift of desperation that I had. So that girl, my girlfriend from 6 months prior, was the first person I called, and had it not been for her, I probably would have never walked out of this house and walked through those doors that day, but she fucking held my hand. And, when we say, just want the hand of AA, or like, I want the hand of recovery to always be there. And for that, I am responsible because that hand was extended to me. Um, and and going back to it again, I will go to my grave convinced that there was a power greater than myself in my room that day, because everything I did, because I'll tell you what, up until that point, clearly I could not do for myself what a power greater than myself can do for me. Because everything I did, from picking up the phone, from fucking asking for help, from leaving my house, from going through the doors and into the rooms of recovery, that was all fucking outside of myself. That was not me doing for me, you know? And there's just that day, there's something that just set off, unbeknownst to me, one split second decision. I was one split second decision away from changing the entire course of my life. And that woman that I once was completely ceased to exist. And that life I previously lived no longer served a purpose from that moment forward. And again, so going back to the most revolutionary change, kicking it into faith-based thinking and a power greater than myself, doing for me what I cannot do for myself. And that's the way I live today. But also, I was so done, but I was so done on so many levels, and I was 225 pounds, very fucking unhealthy. I had completely let myself go. In retrospect today, I see it as, over the span of 28 years, like that woman that I was that day, how we say our inner self, our outer selves are a direct reflection of our inner selves.
Yeah.
I was done. I was haggard. I was tired. I was exhausted. I looked like I was 50 years old. I was 38. Today, the complete opposite. So there is something to be said about the natural sober glow. But, it was 28 years of a complete lack of self-respect for myself. Therefore, I didn't demand it or command it in return, nor did I give it in turn. When we say love ourselves first, there's a reason for that, right? So complete lack of self-respect for myself. So as much as that was happening, I was in physically abusive, sexually abusive, mentally fucking abusive, like mental fucking torture relationships, that codependency, right? But because we were just facilitating and enabling each other's fucking issues and addictions, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, that lack of self-respect, complete disregard for my health and my wellness and my safety and security and that of my daughters. And by the end of it, not a care in the world, that taking care of myself, I couldn't even take care of myself, let alone anybody else. And right down to basic hygiene, I was pissing and shitting myself. I smelt rank. I was fucking done. I was really fucking done. And any dignity I may have ever had in my lifetime, because again, going back to starting to use drug and drink at such a young age, any dignity I may have ever had, completely stripped from me. And like I was saying at the beginning, when we say in our recovery circles, we find ourselves in recovery, I say, how can you find something you never lost? So for me, it's not my sober date. For me, it's not my clean date. For me, it's not my dry date. It is absolutely my rebirth date, because I don't even look like the same person I used to be. Again, recovery being a transformative process, mind, body, and soul, my further evolution. I am a completely new person today, mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally,
Damn.
I don't know how much time we have.
Amazing. No, that was like mic drop. I didn't even, yeah, that was awesome. The whole story right until that end there. That's like a book. You could write a book, honestly.
So
Great stuff.
I actually, that is a goal of mine,
Yeah,
in
I
the
could see
short
it.
term, you know, and
Yeah.
a lot of people just been telling me off my personal account, you know, like I write in prose all the time, right? And
Yeah.
it is the story of my life, you know.
Hell yeah.
Um, but I think, you know, to get back into like how I live today, and the solution, I live in the solution, you know. I
Yeah.
eat, breathe, live, sleep my recovery. Again, recovery to me being my lifestyle today.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, drugging and drinking was my lifestyle. Some people tell me I'm very intense. I'm only chasing my recovery like I used to chase that next high and drunk
Right.
by any means and any fucking lengths necessary, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I work a trifecta program. You know, I'll always say nutrition and fitness have proven viable approaches to my recovery, complemented by my 12-step program. However, those 12 spiritual principles are the foundation, and the building blocks for everything else. I do not just practice them, you know, in all my affairs. It's across all facets of my life. So people even ask me, you know, being a competitive bodybuilder today, people even ask me, you know, is it integral to your recovery? It is absolutely not integral. It is
Hmm.
intrinsic. It is one and the same. How I approach one thing is how I approach everything. It is my program of recovery. You know, again, the sober grind, my trifecta program, my mind, body, soul exercise. You can't be brain fit, spirit fit, and body fit. You can't have one without the other. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
you
Right.
take away, and I could see myself, right? And again, if you look at recovery as a transformative process, and that whole, you know, coming back to a harmonious, aligned, balanced state of self. You know, I take away one part of that three-legged stool, I leg away,
Yeah.
the fucking stool will collapse.
Exactly.
Or
Yeah.
if I'm putting too much energy into one aspect of my trifecta, of
Yeah.
my win-win-win
Yeah.
program, you know, if I'm putting too much into the spiritual side or too much into the you know, I could see myself going off kilter. And again, coming back to my intensity and stuff, it's because, you know, I can't, I notice a direct correlation between the amount of work I put in and the dividends, in return, right?
Right.
I gave my, you know, I turned my life and will over with complete abandon, you know, to a power greater than myself. With complete abandon don't mean I just sit back and watch my fucking life unravel before my very eyes. I got to
Right.
be an active participant in my own savior.
Yeah.
Action.
Yeah.
Action is the word of the day. And I think the word action is riddled in the 12 and 12. It's riddled in the big book. It's all fucking action. Gratitude to me is an action word. I can't
Yeah.
just be thankful, or I can't just tell you that I'm grateful. I gotta fucking show you that I'm grateful. I gotta
Mm.
put in the work, you know. I gotta give it to keep it. You know what has been so freely, generously, and graciously offered to me. The only way for me to keep that is for me to do the same in return. You know,
Yeah.
and that just comes with my work with, you know, other addicts and alcoholics, or, you know, Sober Active Canada being a national non-profit, and I will always say non-profit. So you'll never see, me up there peddling products or, you know, selling services. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's my non-profit, it is my ultimate service work in bringing the active sober movement to our nation. But you know, like, I got to put in the fucking work. There's no avoiding it. There is no avoiding it. So again, you know, when I go back to that part, we are the greatest product I'll ever work on. And it is an labor of love. You probably would have told me I was being launched on a self-discovery journey. Oh shit, no, Alex cannot face herself.
Right.
But there is nothing more fulfilling and gratifying than bettering ourselves, than becoming the best versions of ourselves, not only for ourselves, first and foremost for ourselves,
Mm.
but ultimately for all those that we care about around us, right? We
Yeah.
cannot be of service to someone else until we are of service to ourselves first, you know?
Yeah. 100%.
And And I read it early on in my recovery, you know, and this was, you know, I was just a few weeks in the program, and I had read early on John C. Maxwell's quote, you know, change something you do daily, change your life. Your success lies in your daily routine. And to
Mm.
this day, those are the words that I live by, because I completely fucking overhauled my daily routine. Again, I started doing the mental exercise on the daily, the spiritual exercise on the daily, the physical exercise on the daily. You know, I was in such a state of incomprehensible demoralization, but that hopeless and helpless and desolate state of mind, body, soul. For me, it was mind, body, soul, right? It was my whole entire being, my well-being, and um, that reprieve is actually contingent upon those three, you know, and so yeah, so I cannot, you know, again, yes, I turned, but there is work to fucking do, and I got to do that mind work and that spiritual work and that physical work on a daily basis. And Promise One, I love going into Promise One, and maybe I'll finish on that because I think we are at like a little over an hour, and I don't want to.
Yeah,
I could go on for two. I could go on for a fucking week. You know what?
we'll have you back on for sure.
1 hour too many.
Yeah,
500,000 never
exactly,
enough.
right? What you were
But you know,
talking about
I
earlier.
think
Yeah.
going back, you know, this life I live today, honestly, like I just, had I known it was going to be this amazing, and listen, I fucking got clean and sober. Doesn't mean I'm immune to life's injustices and unfairness and the fucking chaos and noise of this world, you know. But I have a way of better living today. I have a template that I get to populate on a daily basis. I'm a newcomer to this shit every day. I'm fucking no greater than, no better than. I ain't shit for shit. I'm a junkie and an alcoholic like the rest of them. That was the greatest revelation of all time for me. Being fired from Public Service of Canada, which nobody gets fired from the Public Service of Canada, was actually probably a blessing in fucking disguise for me, because it definitely brought me down the fucking, you know, 5,000 pegs I needed to be brought down. However, today, absolutely reemployed, gainfully reemployed, doing the same fucking type of work I was doing before, even better, you know, because angels put on our path, sharing my story on social media. And I can't make this shit up. The fucking miracles do exist. The promises do materialize. Granted, we work for them, you know, granted, we work for them, albeit sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly, but they do materialize. And had I known it was going to be this way today, I would have done this shit fucking years ago, people. Like, I would have
Mm.
done this shit years ago. I would have not endured the insanity that I created for myself, and the misery and the ruin and the demise that I had created myself over all those years. However, it just wasn't my time. There was always a power greater than myself with me for me to be here to live to tell the tale.
Yeah.
And I am grateful for the past I have today, because without it, I wouldn't be who or where I am today. You know, our past don't define us, they fucking refine us.
Mm.
If it don't challenge us, it don't change us. And if it don't us, we don't get fucked, you know? And oh,
And apparently, the interview comes to an unceremonious ending. Apologies to Alex. Yeah, and I'm mad for Beyond Recovery. This is the first time I've had this happen, where the interview just kind of gets cut off here. So I will see you on the next program, and I'm going to reach out to Alex right now. We'll work out a part two. So thank you for joining, and we will talk to you next time.